Hello, Beauty News family. It's been a while. Did you miss us?
We missed you, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
were we going to come back? Probably not.
We got harassed a lot by you guys.
We did. And we also caught up a couple of weeks ago. Hayley was finally in Melbourne. We'll give you an update about what's been happening the last 2 years. So this video is sort of like a catch up and sort of an update of what's going to happen on our channel. If like we don't really know, to be honest, but we hope it pans out the way we want it to pan out. But we were catching up, and for the first time since like January, and we were like, we kind of miss filming together. So we like it went from like one morning be like, there's nothing happening, and then later that night we're like, hang on, let's
it's on.
We've decided. So what are we doing today, Hayley?
Well, we're going to have a little chatty catch up to let you guys know, where we've been for the last 2 years and what's changed in our lives, and probably what you can expect to see from us going forward, which is this layout. And we're also going to have a little chat about like what's been happening in the beauty industry, like the big stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not telling you all of the Morphe and Revolution Beauty and ColourPop. We're going to catch you guys up on the really big stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think we should probably kick things off by letting you guys know what's changed with us in the last 2 years. For me, I literally moved from one side of the country to the opposite side of the country, and I'm now living with my partner in Perth.
Mm-hmm. And you not only did you move, like a giant move where you moved all your belongings and your car and your dog, not only did you have a giant move, but then you moved a further 2 times.
Oh, yes. So 3 moves in the space of 5 months for me. Bought a house, which is, housing.
Stressful.
Stressful. But yeah, that's kind of the extent of my news. I moved 3 times and bought a house in the space of a year.
Exhausting.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, I can imagine. But
I think you are more tired.
Probably. Yeah. So I had a second baby who is now over a year old. So I fell pregnant about a month after we stopped doing Beauty News. So it wasn't the reason we stopped doing Beauty News, but it sort of happened shortly after. So now I have the joy of dealing with 2 little boys every day. It is.
Oh no!
It is a time. And then more recently, I went back to work. So I now work part-time. So that is sort of more for my sanity rather than anything else. Because I felt like I was swamped in toddler and baby and tantrums, and I was struggling. So I got a job to make it even more fun. So yeah, that's what I've been up to, just family stuff and trying to maintain any level of, I don't know, anything. I don't know I'm surprised I'm dressed. Sanity and decency and whatever. Like it's a struggle. So that we've been busy. We've had stuff going on. Beauty News has not been a main focus. So the good thing is that my eldest is going to kinder this year. So it means that there's hopefully a little bit less hectic time where I don't have like a naked toddler running in the background and stuff. So it'd be nice to try to do more filming with Hayley because I've missed it.
I do want to mention that in the 2 years that we were on hiatus, I feel like every single time I had an engagement with the community, like the YouTube community, the question of when is Beauty News coming back always arose. But I think the bigger question was, are you and Kat still friends? Because I think a lot of you secretly hoped that we had fallen out and we didn't. So suck on that. No, we are definitely still friends.
Yeah.
We just, took a break. But the questions never stopped about, is Beauty News coming back? And we never had any like solid plans for it. It was just sort of, left to sit in a corner.
Yeah.
And the opportunity arose. So this is how you occasionally you might see my dog. She likes to do this. She thinks that this is the Freya show. This is a different channel. Please get down. Don't lick my face. This is the format that you will see Kat and I in. Obviously, living in different states makes filming together kind of not possible.
Not possible.
So this is the format that you will see us in, and our setup is very professional.
Look, the good thing is that we're going to go into this year not having like crazy expectations to be super polished.
No.
We just want to catch up with people and sort of
Yeah.
open up that dialogue again and sort of have a space for people to come and chat. Like, I know that we had a really good community, so it'd be nice to get some of that community back. And we're here. We've been listening. We've been paying attention.
Yes. Haven't forgotten you guys.
Exactly right. So what we're actually going to plan on doing, like we're hoping this is going to work, is 2 videos a month. So at the end of the month, we're going to reflect on sort of the best and worst of the makeup releases. So we're not going to be talking about the 72 ColourPop releases. It's not going to happen, but we are going to have a bit of a deep dive into the things that we thought were most interesting and probably the worst releases in our opinions anyway. So there will be some beauty news related content every month. But then we're also going to put up during the month sort of like a wine time chat that we used to do. So we used to enjoy doing that, and there's a lot of topics to talk about. And what we're actually going to do today is talk about a little bit of what's, like Hayley was saying, sort of big things that were happening in the beauty space since we've left. And I think that we could even do some like deep dives on some of these topics. So if you want to see deep dives and you go, I really want to know the rise and fall of blah or something, like we can plan one of those out as well. So this is the sort of non-beauty news podcast episode a month is going to be just general beauty chat, and you can give us ideas and we'll go away and research, and that's what we're going to plan on doing.
So I think we need to kick it off with some of the big things that have happened in the last 2 years while we've been away. And I think one of the big things that we have to talk about is Morphe's bankruptcy, not really closing, but the semi-closing of some Morphe stores.
The majority of stores. I feel like all of their US stores closed like overnight.
Closed? Right.
Whereas we still have one in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. We know that there was one in Melbourne Central and there was one at Chadstone. Now, I'm not sure if the Chadstone one's still there, but Kat has confirmed that the Melbourne Central one is still there. So essentially what happened was Morphe filed for bankruptcy, and the brand was actually, or Former Brands, which owns Morphe, and actually a couple of other brands under the umbrella, they were acquired, not purchased, but acquired to basically wipe out a $690 million debt relief. It was acquired by 2 companies, like financing companies. Yeah. So what we will see happen with Morphe now, like, no idea. It will be very interesting. And this is definitely one that I would like to do a deep dive on, because I want to look more into, the debt amount, like the total debt amount, who was affected, stuff like that. But we do know that Morphe sort of, I guess, rose to fame based on collaborations.
Look, I think the thing is that Morphe relied very heavily on influencer marketing, and they almost paved the way for how you could make money off influencers. And through that, they sort of made these juggernaut influencers. So, James Charles, Jaclyn Hill, Jeffree Star, there was quite a few big ones that were linked to Morphe. And what ended up happening was that as those creators became controversial and people were cancelling them, Morphe actually ended their relationship with Jeffree Star and James Charles over controversies. Yeah. They still backed Jaclyn Hill. So Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics was under Former brands. So they still backed her, but she sort of, I feel like she was a walking controversy, and she sort of, whenever she puts
Everything
something,
she does.
yeah, whenever she puts something out, there was some backlash to it or some controversy. Like, and they were sort of smaller controversies, but they all build up over time. So I think the problem is that when your business model is based on capitalizing on the popularity of these influencer star type people, and then they come crashing down, then your brand starts crashing down. And they did really try to get new influencers on board. So like Morphe 2 had those D'Amelio sisters from TikTok,
Yes.
but that didn't go anywhere. That wasn't popular. So I feel like they rose to popularity in the peak of like the beauty community, and then that bubble burst and Morphe came tumbling down because it wasn't actually a viable sort of long-term business structure. So that's what sort of happened. But we are like, okay, so along with, and you know more about this, along with the Morphe crash, which Morphe as a brand, they're still around. So they're going to still be selling. It's just that they're not going to have the stores and probably expand as quickly as they did. But they're going to still be around. They're going to be churning out the same boring makeup just to make some money back for those investors. But Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics, who had like a resurgence, and they redid all the products and relaunched a bunch of lip products and all that kind of stuff.
She announced 4 months ago, she published a video on YouTube, and it's still up. She announced that she's closing her brands. And it's not just a beauty brand that she had. Like, she had a jewelry brand, she had a homeware brand. And again, so much controversy. Like, the jewelry brand, I saw online that people were saying that she was stealing other jewelry creators' original designs and, like, you know, creating a mock-up and releasing it herself, or a dupe, I suppose. And her homeware brand, apparently she had the name that she had chosen, apparently stole that name from another YouTuber who has a homeware brand, I believe it was. And the brand had been around for ages, and it was brought to her attention. Like, but I do believe with that, and this is like kind of old news, and I didn't follow it too in depth. So again, if you want a deep dive on this, we can do that. But I believe that the original owner of the brand name, so not Jaclyn Hill, but the original owner, she had not, what's it called? Trademarked her name. So I think that was like a big issue. But yeah, now she's closing her brands anyway.
Jeffree Star's still going, so we don't want to give too much light on Jeffree Star, but Jeffree Star is still going with the brand and has released a bunch of skincare and keeps releasing products over the last few years. But I wish it was a publicly listed company so you can see the profits. I would love to see the difference between the heyday and the crash.
Oh my
because
God, me too.
There is no way he's making millions of dollars per launch like he used to. There is no way. Like, they don't sell out. They don't sell out anymore. They're often on sale. I just feel like the stock levels that they're making must be so much lower. And a good comparison of like sort of the heyday of like the beauty industry, and like we were looking, and essentially I think they were saying something about Morphe almost at the peak was valued at $2.2 billion, and then recently was like transferred to pay off a $690 million debt. So you can see how much they're actually like they've gone downhill, and Jeffree Star would be the same. So another brand that actually has launched, which is so late to the party and go away, no one gives a shit. James Charles finally released his brand Painted, and essentially he launched with it was tools, so like
terrible products.
So it was brushes and a sponge, and then also these little like multi-purpose little paint products. So they're in little tubes, like little paint tubes, and essentially they're just multi-use products. But the thing is that might have been innovative 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. These days, so many brands do them, and apparently do them a lot better. So, and he, like, I know he still has fans, cool, but he is nowhere near as popular as he used to be. And he did blame the delay in the formula not being right, and then having to source a new it was like a new formulator and new manufacturer, and I'm like, there is more going on than just the formula not being right.
I think so.
Like there's a lot going on here that's not happening. I feel like it's just an excuse. He was late to the party, and now I don't think that brand's going to last very long, to be honest.
No, look, I feel like his brand felt irrelevant to the current beauty climate when it released. Even when he was like sneak peeking his products, and we knew that they were going to be like the sort of multi-purpose paint style products, I was like, this is not.
This is pre-pandemic. This is not post-pandemic.
Yeah, it is. But also, I have to say that I actually feel like they're called Create paints, and like looking at the range of them, you know, you could probably use them, and I'm talking about from a consumer point of view. So if you were to buy these, how would you use them as a consumer on an everyday basis? Otherwise, obviously, if you're not using them, they're going to sit in a drawer and dry up and go bad. But you've got like oranges and pinks and purples and reds and yellows. You could totally mix them to make blushes, like great fun. But then you've got colors like blue and green and black, and they have a bit more of a limited usage. So if you're going to be using them in an everyday situation, you might be using them as like an eye primer, or even as a cream eyeshadow. And I just feel like their usage in a standard consumer's makeup collection is minimal. Mm-hmm. If you're, you know, a little bit more of an artsy consumer, and you like to do like face painting or artistic work or even body painting, sure, this absolutely has a place. And I think in terms of consumer brands, not sort of pro brands, then he's filling a gap in the market. But I think that the gap he's filling is tiny. But it's like there's a tiny amount of people who want it.
That's true. I totally agree. I don't think this is a consumer, your everyday makeup consumer product. Like maybe if you really like the formula, or you're like, I really love an orange blush and I just can't get one pigment enough.
Maybe.
Like, yes, maybe one of them. But like P. Louise has done this for years. Made by Mitchell has done this. Like there are so many brands that have done these. Even Hindash was doing these in more like sort of nude shades. Yes. So like there are so many people that have done this. It's no longer even if you had a very small niche, but there was no one filling that niche, you could make a lot of money. But there are people filling that niche. Yeah. So it is years too late.
It is.
And I just feel like whenever you talk about him as well, people, you know, use the P word and like mention controversies. So like, yeah. And the word isn't painted, just putting it out there. The P word is not painted.
I will also mention, like you talked about P. Louise and Made by Mitchell having these same products, but also these products have been on the market for like 20 plus years, coming from pro brands
like MAC.
Amazing formulas. Yeah. And even like less known brands as well. So certainly not new by any means. And also then he went ahead and released an eyeshadow palette that we've all seen a million times called the Basic Canvas palette.
Oh, that was so boring. Oh my God. I forgot about that because it's so boring.
I'm looking at it now. I'm just like... I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, wow, this is a snooze fest. I'm going to look at this palette tonight to help me fall asleep.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm Googling it now because I'm curious, because I forgot all about it. Like, I blanked it out of my memory. But here's the thing, and what we'll talk about a little bit at the end of this as well, because we're jamming a whole bunch of stuff in. We're just getting things off our chest. But the thing is that nude palettes are back in. But the thing is that this is not even basic. Yes. This is a sunrise with browns. Like it is. This looks like Morphe. It's like he's actually poaching Morphe's fucking palette. I'm sure he's using the same factory.
I think. Oh, it would not even remotely surprise me. I think what is interesting about this palette like the most interesting choice made about this palette is it is a brown and sort of basic canvas palette, fair enough. And then you've got some sunset colors in there, which I think are really complementary to most skin colorings and even undertones. But then he's got a whole bloody row of pink. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But we're not trying to, you know, talk about this release in depth. But I definitely fall into the camp of feeling like his brand released way too late. He's releasing products that, like, it's almost like he's stuck in 2018 or something.
Thank you.
It's just, yeah.
His
it's
next
really,
release
like,
is going to be the highest coverage concealer that you put in a fucking triangle under here and blend out all the way
like
up your face.
blinding highlight. Yeah.
No, go back to 2016, mate. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Morphe had a hard time, obviously. And I think also the pandemic didn't help. And I feel like we did actually predict back when we were filming videos that there's going to be brands that are closing. Now, there hasn't been heaps of brands, some brands, but there are signs that some brands are either, they're sort of reining it in so they don't fail, I'm assuming. And a good example of this is recently, and there's no confirmation necessarily, but recently KVD Beauty has been pulling out of international Sephora's, probably not all of them. So if you are from a particular country, like, no, our stands are super stocked and everyone's buying it. You know, that might be an exception, but I do know in Australia, everything is like 40% off. They're clearing out the shelves. And I've heard in other countries as well, like European countries and whatnot, pretty much KVD Beauty, I keep calling it Kat Von D. KVD Beauty is pretty much like, non-existent in Sephora anymore. So Sephora is actually trimming the fat. And I also noticed that with Glowish by Huda Beauty. That seems to be disappearing in Australia. So I'm not sure if other people are experiencing that as well. But there are brands that are doing that. I do want to say that we could also do a whole video on KVD Beauty because I don't actually feel like they've actually had some reasonably popular products in the past couple of years, mainly base products. And and they've got some nice products. Not gonna lie. I think, yes, separating from, you know, the controversy with Kat Von D, which, to be fair, prior to the pandemic, people like crucified her for being anti-vax, and now it's sort of like a quarter of the population's anti-vax. Like it's sort of like the pandemic.
Yeah,
if she did that during the pandemic, that she'd actually probably get more supporters. To be fair, it's interesting how things change. But I don't think the split with Kat Von D was a reason why KVD Beauty is sort of going downhill. I don't even think they're meandering with their sort of brand in terms of like how they're viewed and where they're going is the cause. I think it's just that type of makeup is no longer... Back when KVD Beauty started, it was quite graphic, quite colourful, in a sea of like bland. And then when Kat Von D went vegan, she reformulated everything to be vegan. So it was one of the few brands on the market that was completely vegan and quite colourful. And so I feel like now that is a standard, it's just sort of disappeared. It's no longer special. So I think there's a few reasons why KVD is sort of not that interesting anymore. But if you are international and you do miss KVD Beauty, well, firstly, go buy stuff while it's on special. But you can buy it from their international website, so it's not the worst thing. But there are a few other brands' websites that have recently closed.
We recently heard that Urban Decay has closed or announced the closure of their UK website. So it's not everywhere, it's just in the UK. We do know that the shelves are still being stocked where Urban Decay is kept in the UK, so that's not an issue. They're not closing the brand, they're closing the website, but I do find it quite interesting. I would expect that the building of these websites and the maintenance of them is exceptionally expensive. I actually know someone who, and this is going back like almost 10 years now, who worked in website development, and they would create websites like you would see from these really big brands. And they mentioned millions of dollars.
Yes.
Whenever I was like, so how much do they cost? You know, like you can make one with Squarespace. I mean, Squarespace wasn't around at the time, but there was other companies that you could use to like build a little website, and they were really cheap. And I just assumed that website building was cheap, and it's not. And if we're going back talking about those sorts of numbers 10 years ago, and we've seen such a boom in the beauty industry now, you know, people who are building these websites, they're fully aware of what these companies are making. So you can only imagine that they're charging an absolute arm and a leg for them. And if the website is not really bringing in many sales throughout a year, then it's not even paying for itself.
But like, not only, like you're right, not only building it would cost millions of dollars, but they've built it. But whenever they do an update, whenever they do a sale, whenever they do new release, they'd be paying someone to do that, and it would be very costly.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't surprise me that you're going to find that where brands have like sell the majority of their products through a third party, like a reseller, retailer, a store, that they're going to start going, well, what's the point of us shipping it? Because it's also, you know, them having to distribute the products themselves, like individually, not just like in mass to certain stores. Another brand that did that recently in Australia, not recent, I think it was like a year or so ago, was Benefit. So Benefit closed their Australian Benefit website. They're obviously still around. Their brow bar's doing well. They're still releasing products. They're still launching products. So it's not the death of the brand by any means. It's just trimming probably what they would have said, oh yeah, this could be a tax deduction, it's not, you know, making heaps of money, but that's fine. But when you are, you know, in a climate where things are getting very expensive and people aren't probably buying to the same degree as they used to, there are corners that they have to sort of cut, or fat that they need to trim. Another brand that has done something a bit different, which is actually almost the opposite, is Glossier. So the brand that we famously say, you can't sit with us, because that's what the brand gives off the vibe. They only shipped to a handful of countries for 10 years, a decade. And finally, a couple of months ago, they've announced that they're shipping worldwide. Now, apparently they've got a new CEO as of last year. So I'm assuming the new CEO is like, I'm changing things around. But I'm curious if it's because they need to tap into the international audiences. Like previously, like, we don't need you. We're fine. Whereas now I'm just wondering, are you opening that up? Not because you care about Australia and all the other countries, because you haven't for 10 years. It is likely because they need to tap into the money that comes from those countries. Yeah. So that is another one that's sort of changed their way in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I do think it is interesting, but also I feel like when a brand has been around for 10 years and only, you know, shipping to their little in-crowd of countries, it makes me wonder, not only, you know, do they need to expand to get the sales, but after 10 years, do people just sort of lose interest in a brand and what they're releasing, especially if they've never had access to it? And I know, Kat, you purchased some stuff from Glossier. Do you actually like their stuff? I'm curious.
So this is funny. I was talking to Simon about this just yesterday. I purchased their limited edition holiday lip balms that are the old formula before they reformulated to make it vegan. Apparently, the new formula is trash. Their old formula is very nice, but for a tinted lip balm, like, you can breathe and the colour disappears. So it does feel really nice, and it looks nice for like 20 minutes. And it does leave your lips feeling quite plump, but like the effect of it is too short-lived for me. And I ordered a couple other things, but I haven't really tried them enough, because I was like, I'll do like a video review on them, and then it just keeps getting thrown down the road. I'll do that after Christmas. I'll do that in the new year. I'll do that. And it's, so... I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm not rushing out to buy more is the consensus of that. But I don't hate them, but I definitely don't think it's worth a 10-year wait.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be people who are interested in trying the brand. Even I am a bit interested in trying Glossier stuff. But yeah, I wonder if it's a bit like too little too late with the brand, you know, because after 10 years, you do start to, you lose that edge. You're no longer shiny and new and exciting and interesting. So we'll see what happens with Glossier. But the next thing we're going to talk about is actually pretty big news. Marc Jacobs. So we did see Marc Jacobs
do a Kat Von D.
Well, they did
disappear.
a Kat Von D.
It was like 50% off.
Yeah,
disappeared.
They did. And they didn't really announce that the brand was closing. They just sort of put everything on sale. And then when it had been on sale for a while, then they announced that they were closing. And I think it took a lot of us by surprise. For some people, they certainly weren't surprised. They were like, oh my God, Marc Jacobs, so irrelevant, hasn't created anything nice in years and years. I didn't fall into that category. I thought a lot of their products were really nice. Their formulas are bang on. Yeah, they are a little bit boring, I would say, in the climate of what people are probably looking for in the beauty community, because, you know, you want exciting and fun, interesting releases. But Marc Jacobs really did make some good core products. But they closed up shop and we heard nothing for quite a while. They did say that they were going to come back, but we had no idea of when or how or what. And then we found out that the brand had actually been purchased by Coty. And Coty announced that Marc Jacobs will be returning in 2025. So we only have to wait 2 years. Hopefully it'll be the very start of 2025, because then it's only another 12 months away.
I feel like it's going to be...
That sounds scary.
I know. I reckon it's going to be more of a Jack Attack thing where it was like, you know, oh, it's coming in 2025. And then we're like, hey, it's 2028. Where's Marc Jacobs? It's running late.
He's late.
Yeah, late. But I think what is going to surprise people the most, I think, is like, I've heard, like, okay, you're right. Marc Jacobs, there was so much speculation because no one knew what was happening at the start. People were talking about they're reformulating, they're repackaging, they're making everything vegan, they're blah, 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 blah. They had finished their contract with the parent company. So it was like, oh, maybe they're renegotiating, maybe they're whatever. Maybe Marc Jacobs is going independent. Like, we don't know. So there's all these sort of speculation. But the thing is that I'm just curious about who owns the formulas now. Because, you know, when their contract ended... yes, when a brand buys out another brand, like part of the deal is like who owns the formulas. I don't know who owns the formulas. I don't know if your favorite bronzer is coming back. I don't know if your favorite eyeliners are coming back. They may be starting from absolute scratch.
I think they will be. So Marc Jacobs Beauty was manufactured by Kendo, who is a subsidiary of LVMH and also makes KVD Beauty, Fenty Beauty. So the formulas were coming out of Kendo. Now, Kendo is an actual cosmetics manufacturer. Coty is also an actual cosmetics manufacturer. So they like sit there with their little powders and mix them up and press them in the pans and send them off to your house. My guess is when... Marc Jacobs was, when the contract was up and the brand or the intellectual property, that's what I would say that it is. It's just like the brand name. When that was acquired, that's all they acquired. That's going to be my guess. I don't have any proof of that, but based on knowing that Kendo manufactures, Kendo's not going to give up their secrets. Surely not.
Not their manufacturing, but they could give up the formulas. Like literally, like here's the ingredients and here's the how to make it. Like they could
do that. Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if they have just released the name, it makes me wonder, will they then be working on the formulas that they used in Marc Jacobs products and bring out a new Kendo brand to release in Sephora? I'm curious. We don't know, but I
No, we
think
don't.
also the fact that they're coming in 2025 suggests to me that they are having to start from
Starting
scratch.
from scratch.
Because that's often how long it takes for like to formulate and repackage and make everything from scratch. And we did see that with Kylie Cosmetics had to do that.
Yes, we did. So Kylie completely, started from scratch with Coty because Coty acquired a percentage, but also they acquired a percentage of KKW Beauty.
Who hasn't come back.
Who has not come back. And another tiny little tidbit that I will add here is there have been news reports that Kylie and Kim are actually trying to buy back the portion of the company that Coty purchased from each brand. So what that says, I mean, we could make a video simply on that topic as well. I don't think that there's a lot of confidence coming from Kylie and Kim in regards to their beauty brands being manufactured by Coty at this point. So what that says for Marc Jacobs will remain to be seen. I think Coty is trying to put themselves on the big boy map, but potentially what is happening, like they've got the brands, but can they then bring the formulas and the interesting releases? We don't know. And I think what we do know is that to be successful, like actually mega successful in the beauty industry, you need to have it all. You need to have the good name, the good products, the interesting releases, the fantastic marketing. It's all got to be on point, because if any of those things fall flat, it all just comes crumbling down.
You can fail. Yeah. And like, I don't actually know. I've tried some old Kylie products, but I haven't tried any new Kylie products. So I don't actually know how they compare. I do know that it's taken them a long time to be to start bringing out products that they've had in their line for years and years. I think recently she was sort of showing new lip liners, and I'm like, dude, you started with lip liners. You started with a lip kit.
Exactly.
I'm just curious. Like, obviously she's trying to keep that going. It made her the youngest billionaire, something, self-made billionaire, bullshit. I'm just curious how Coty are handling that. Now, with the Marc Jacobs, Marc Jacobs has had a long-standing relationship with Coty, because Coty manufactures the fragrances, and Marc Jacobs fragrances are like crazy popular and have been for decades. So, obviously there's a relationship there and they're going to work together, but I feel like they really have to invest a lot of money and do it well, because I think Marc Jacobs Beauty has some big shoes to fill. So I'll be curious to see what happens there.
So before we wrapped up filming on Beauty News, we had talked about how Gwen Stefani was launching a new brand, and in I think it was March of 2022, so not too long after we had stopped filming, she actually launched her brand called Give, with an X. Give.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do.
Because Give.
Give. I don't know. How do you say it in your head? Because I don't say give. I'm like, give. Yeah.
Yes, it's an interesting name, but it's stocked at Sephora, so it's one of the Sephora brands.
Now, looking at the brand, I wouldn't say there's anything super interesting. It looks like a very core group of products, but also, she covers all of the bases, so good on her.
And then another new brand, and again, we can do a whole video talking about new brands, but let us know what was your most notable new brand of the last couple of years. But one that annoys the shit out of me was our old mate Jared Blandino and his husband Jeremy Johnson. That's the name. They brought out a new brand. So they separated entirely from Too Faced. They made their, was it billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars? They made so much money selling Too Faced.
Yes.
And they stuck around for a while and they worked, but then they parted ways. And now they've launched a new brand. Now this brand looks like the cheaper dollar store version of Too Faced. It's called Polite Society. And the premise is it's supposed to be like, the vibe I get is they're trying to make it out that it's like rich kids that are a bit cheeky. But it's like Polite Society. But it's the most bland release. It's so boring.
I would say that they definitely, like with the release of Polite Society, we are certainly seeing that they are a bit of like a one-trick pony when it comes into terms of makeup releases, because like you said, it is just a reiteration of Too Faced, pretty much in every way that you look at it. Definitely, you know, a lot of sort of everyday basic kind of stuff. They've got an eyeshadow palette that's a holiday release called Santa Knows When You're Being a Bitch, and it has pinks and a blue in it. Nothing has changed. They are releasing things that look like Too Faced products.
Yeah,
just
and
with
also
different packaging.
Yeah, and also, like, so their releases have been really, really bland. And it's like they've got a cheek palette in, like, one shade variety. And then they have, like, little cheeky names that they're like, oh, aren't we funny? And it's like, no. Like, you did this with Too Faced and it was confusing and it was weird. And now you're just trying to make this its own thing. And good, isolate it to the corners of the universe I don't give a shit about. I think it's Ulta exclusive and their website exclusive. I think this is going to be a brand that is going to come and go in a blink of an eye. Yes. It is going to be 50% off alongside Jack Attack, and it's just going to fade into the background. And yeah, I think, yes, I sort of feel like Jared has always been a bit of... He's good at marketing himself. Like I watched a video, it was...
marketing himself, but not other things.
A few months ago, I think I was watching that Robert Welsh. He did a video about Too Faced, and I feel like his deep dives, he misses chunks because I'm like, I remember that. But anyway, he misses chunks, which is fine. But he did bring up that Jared was claiming that Too Faced had the first sparkle eyeshadow, but it was not even sparkly. It was fucking shimmery. And there is like, it's harder back then because in the 90s it was all like magazines and stuff. So you got to keep the magazines. There's no sort of digital trail of it. But apparently there's other brands that were doing it before him. But it still comes out. It's almost like he believes his own bullshit to the point that if he says it enough in enough interviews, then it actually comes out true on the internet that, you know, Too Faced were the first people to bring out a sparkly eyeshadow. So I feel like that sums up Jared, and I feel like that worked to grow Too Faced, but that doesn't fly anymore. Like people can smell your bullshit a mile away, and people are going to fact check that stuff, and people don't find the brand very interesting. So I feel like it was the right place, right time with Jared and Too Faced, but I don't think he can replicate that magic. Well, no magic. I don't think he can replicate it anymore. So I feel like this is just going to be a bit of a tax write-off for him because it's not going to make much money.
Something I will mention, because I feel like if we don't at least mention this, people will be in the comments and telling us, you forgot this. They are releasing other brands as well, but they're not beauty related. So we're not touching on them right now. We might talk about it in depth in the future, but for now, we know that they exist. We don't care about them. We think it's going to be a flop, and we might talk about it later. We might not.
Just take your money and just have a good life. Like their money can fund a country for like years. Like just...
Have you not invested your money wisely enough that you can just go on and live your life now? Like downsize if everything's expensive. Don't keep that chair. What was it?
The Chanel material chair that they can't sit on.
Like, come on, man. My God. So that's where we're going to wrap it up today. We do hope that you enjoyed this little return of beauty news. Let us know what you thought. Give us your opinions on any of the topics, potentially something that we missed. I definitely feel like there was some big news that we missed, but unless you're physically, like, if you've got a notebook and you're keeping track, like,
We're not.
fine, it's easy to keep track, but we haven't been.
And
We've
also,
been living.
we're filming this in the craziness that is Christmas. So
Oh my God, yeah.
the fact that we can even brain right now is a miracle. A Christmas
Brain what?
miracle. What? Who said that?
All right, guys, we do hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you in the next one.
Bye. Good to
Bye.
see you. Good to be back.